My name is Marie. I'm 30 years old. I've been married to my husband Sam for 4 years. We wanted children and tried to conceive right after getting married, but we weren't blessed with any. Medical tests showed there was no issue with me, but Sam was reluctant to get tested, so our attempts to have a child ended there. I sometimes thought about what could happen if he got tested and treated. But I realized a child isn't everything, and living just the two of us could be good too. I never pressured Sam into getting tested. I work as an architect at a construction company. My salary is quite decent, and I love my job. It feels fulfilling, so I started thinking a life without children might not be so bad. Sam is a government employee. He earns less than I do, but his job is stable. We enjoy our life, doing things we love, eating delicious food, and occasionally going on trips.
That sweet pleading voice calling me in front of the house is my sister Sally.
Again? Only Sally would come over this early on a weekday. I sighed and headed towards the front door.
Stop coming over so early in the morning.
Sorry, something came up. Can you take care of Annie?
Again? I just watched her the day before yesterday, remember?
Please, just watch her for me.
Sally, who's 3 years younger than me, gave birth to my niece Annie 4 years ago. It was a shotgun marriage, but they separated within half a year, and now she's a single mother. Lately, Sally has been dropping off her child with me for any little reason. I understood raising a child alone is tough, and agreed to help, but it's escalated to the point where she's asking me several times a week.
It's an emergency. I had no choice, right?
It's a weekday and I have work too.
But you're working remotely, Marie. Just let her sleep beside you, please.
While saying please, she asks if it's already decided, already placing the child things at the entrance. Unable to refuse, I sighed and agreed to take care of my niece.
Thank you. I'll pick her up in the evening.
As Sally happily leaves, she's all dressed up wearing a short skirt. What kind of errand is it, I wonder? I watch Sally walk away in her high heels, feeling a mix of emotions. My 4-year-old niece is a quiet, easygoing child. She cries sometimes, but her charming smile makes it easy to care for her. I thought we couldn't have children, and I was okay with that, but children are indeed adorable. Holding my niece, I realized how precious such a small being could be. I felt sorry for her being left by her mom so often, and told Sally it wasn't good to leave her so frequently. Still, I was happy to take care of my niece. Sally came to pick her up late in the evening. Without a word of apology, she took her daughter and left right away. My husband came home just after that.
So Sally left her child with us again today.
Yeah.
I told my husband about my day, but he just nodded uninterestedly.
Is that all you have to say?
She's a single mom. It must be hard for her. You should help her out.
I do want to help, but
Just accept it as a break for her. You're working remotely anyway, right?
anyway, I know he's not happy about my job. My higher income hurts his pride.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm gonna take a shower.
He cut off the conversation and left the living room. Then a vibrating sound caught my attention. My husband's mobile phone was ringing on the table. He usually never leaves it unattended. Curious, I glanced at the screen. The name displayed was Sally. Wait, what does this mean?
I forgot my phone.
Just then, my husband quickly returned to the living room. He swiftly grabbed his mobile phone and immediately headed towards the bathroom. I acted as if nothing happened. I wanted to believe it was my imagination, but the message under Sally read, "I want to see you now." Was Sally messaging my husband? Is he cheating on me? I kept pondering these thoughts, but couldn't come to a conclusion. Since that day, I never had another chance to look at his phone.
I want a snack.
Sorry, sweetheart.
Distracted, I picked up my niece, who asked to be held. She smiled innocently. So cute. If Sally is cheating with my husband, that means she's neglecting her child for infidelity. How can she leave such a cute child behind? If my suspicions are true, I couldn't forgive either Sally or my husband. Here are the investigation results.
Thank you.
I had braced myself and hired a detective agency. The results confirmed my husband was indeed having an affair. I felt dizzy but managed to hold back my tears as I had prepared myself for this. Sure enough, my husband and Sally were involved in an affair. It wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment thing, or a fleeting lapse of judgment. They met several times a week, changing locations, meticulously planning their trysts. Come to think of it, my husband, a government worker who usually comes home on time, often works late on days Sally brought my niece over. He strangely defended Sally going out and leaving her child with us. Why hadn't I noticed this before when they both often returned home simultaneously? Receiving the report, I felt lost about what to do next. Should I tell my parents? Confront them both? But what I thought of first was my niece.
You're having an affair, aren't you?
Surprised by my sudden confrontation, my husband was taken aback.
What are you talking about?
Are you going to pretend you don't know?
I don't know what you're misunderstanding, but don't say such nonsense.
You're cheating with Sally, aren't you?
Huh?
Confronted with my certainty, my husband's eyes darted back and forth as if swimming in confusion. It seemed as though he was trying to gauge how much I knew about the truth. Thinking about how to wriggle out of this. That's probably what's on his mind right now. Too bad I already know everything.
Let's get a divorce.
What? No, why are you saying this all of a sudden?
I don't need you anymore. A man as low as you.
As I spat out those words, my husband's face turned red with anger at being called the lowest. When I learned of my husband and Sally's affair, my heart was ruled not by sadness, but by a completely cold feeling. I didn't care anymore. That's what I felt deep down. Sally having an affair with her sister's husband while having a young daughter, and my husband who continued the affair with Sally, despite knowing everything. Both seemed just despicable. Normally I would be entitled to compensation from both in a divorce court. But Sally has a child. I didn't want my cute niece to feel miserable. This feeling grew stronger, and I decided not to claim compensation from Sally in the divorce. I think I wanted to leave a reliable place for Sally and her child, so I kept this fact a secret from our parents. I thought of ending everything by just receiving divorce compensation from my husband.
Let me think about it. It's all so sudden.
My husband bit his lip, exhaling as if to calm himself down.
All right, let's talk more about this tomorrow.
I agreed to his strained words. There were many things to discuss and arrange. Thinking this, I gave my husband some time, which turned out to be a mistake. He didn't come home even after his usual time the next day.
He's late.
Maybe he and Sally are plotting something. While I waited without contacting him, I suddenly heard a child crying in the distance. Curious, I stepped outside and saw a sight that made me question my eyes.
Annie,
My niece, wrapped in a blanket, stood in front of my house. Looking around as if she realized something, I saw Sally and my husband hastily driving away in their car. I thought about chasing them, but couldn't leave my crying niece behind, so I just watched their car drive away. How could they just leave a child behind? What if Annie had wandered off somewhere? What if she had been hit by a car? What if someone had taken her? Just the thought made me shudder. I felt a simmering anger towards the two, who could so easily do such a thing. They're not human. They're demons. When I lifted Annie, I found several papers wrapped in the blanket with her. There were divorce papers with my husband's signature and letters from both of them. Apologies. They were in love and desperately wanted to be together. They left the child's care to me. That's what was written. A mix of frustration, anger, and various other emotions overwhelmed me. Tears I had been holding back burst forth. Unable to endure the drastic change in circumstances, I told my parents everything. Everything that had happened so far and about Annie being abandoned. My parents rushed over immediately. I showed them the evidence of Sally and my husband's affair, explaining everything through tears. Mom hugged my shoulder, comforting me while Dad trembled with anger.
So, what do you plan to do?
I'm getting a divorce.
That's right, you should.
We would need to have a discussion, including my husband's parents. My parents intended to cut ties with Sally. They said even if she returned to her parents' home, they would never help her.
Annie is our dear granddaughter. We will take her in.
Dad said, looking at my niece sleeping peacefully. Mom seemed to be crying with her eyes downcast.
No, I will take her in.
I declared my decision resolutely.
You don't have to do that. Think about what they did. You don't need to listen to their side of the story.
Mom seemed worried that I was considering the 2 letters. But that wasn't it.
She's really precious to me. I think of her like my own child. I'll adopt her.
It seemed my parents understood my resolve was firm. They looked troubled but respected my feelings. They told me to consult them anytime, which felt very reassuring. The next day I inquired at my husband's workplace and found out he had already resigned. I was sure he had really disappeared. When I checked our banking account, it was completely empty. I was almost impressed at how efficiently he managed everything in just one day. However, only a few $1,000s, which was in an account my husband could freely access, was withdrawn. The rest of the money was safe in a separate account. I had planned to discuss property distribution, but I was relieved I had moved the money to another account, just in case. It was a small move on my part. I also contacted Sally's ex-husband, my niece's biological father, but he expressed no interest in living with her. It pained me to think about my niece, but I decided to give her all the love I could. After finalizing my divorce, I legally adopted my niece. We started a new life together, moving to a different place. Life was challenging, but it was enjoyable. She taught me the hardships and joys of parenting. Time flew by, and I'll never forget the first time she called me Mom. The world wasn't kind to us, but thinking of my daughter, I could face anything. Juggling parenting and work, 10 years passed quickly. One day, when my daughter turned 14, I suddenly received a call on my mobile phone.
Mom, there's a call for you.
All right.
The screen only showed a phone number. Who could it be? Curious, I answered, and a familiar voice came from the other end.
Marie?
Sally?
It's been a while.
It was Sally. Even after 10 years, she spoke as if nothing had changed. Her carefree tone made their disappearance feel like a dream.
Man?
Seeing me frozen on the phone, my daughter looked worried. I snapped back to reality. It couldn't have been a dream. My daughter has grown up after all.
It's okay. I told her and turned back to the phone. What? You have the nerve to call me after all this time?
I exploded with anger.
Eh? Are you still mad? It's been 10 years. Sally was incredibly optimistic.
Some things can't be forgiven, no matter how many years pass.
Sally laughed at me, not feeling the least bit guilty, even after saying 10 years. She seemed to have no awareness of what they had done.
What do you want?
Marie, you've been taking care of my daughter, right?
Hearing her mention her daughter, my heart leapt. I couldn't believe Sally had any feelings for her child. I was shocked.
Then what?
I'm thinking of taking her back.
What?
She's grown up now, right? So I thought it might be okay to take her.
Did Sally even understand what she was saying?
How can you think such a thing is acceptable?
Don't raise your voice.
How can I stay calm in this situation?
As I raised my voice, Sally said,
I'll come to pick her up soon. Bye.
and abruptly hung up, leaving her daughter for 10 years and now suddenly wanting to take her back. What does she think of my daughter? They really are monsters. I was trembling with anger. I explained Sally's call to Dad and Mom, but I couldn't bring myself to tell my daughter. I had told her that I wasn't her biological mother, but I hadn't yet explained that her real mom was my sister Sally. My daughter was left behind when she was 4 and has vague memories of her life before I took her in. The affair between my ex-husband and Sally abandoning her daughter and disappearing. It seemed impossible to explain this to my daughter without hurting her. I had been postponing the conversation, thinking she should be a bit older, but now this situation had arisen.
Can we talk for a minute?
I called my daughter.
Yeah?
Mom has something I haven't told you about.
Just as I was about to start, the doorbell rang with a ding-dong announcing a visitor. I glanced at the monitor and my breath caught.
Sally.
Marie, I know you're there.
Somehow, Sally had found out where we lived and was standing in front of our house. Ding-dong, ding-dong.
Marie?
I thought about ignoring her, but Sally kept ringing the doorbell and shouting loudly outside.
Mom? Are you okay?
My daughter looked worried.
Yes, I'll handle it, but you shouldn't come near. Can you call Grandma and tell her that she's here? They'll understand, okay?
Okay.
Sensing the seriousness, my daughter nodded firmly and immediately called my mom. I closed the door leading to the living room and opened the front door. I closed the door leading to the living room, braced myself, and opened the front door.
Ah, I knew you were here.
Stop it. You're causing a nuisance to the neighbors.
It's because you took so long to open the door. Isn't that right, huh?
It's been a while.
Behind Sally, my ex-husband awkwardly stood. I never expected him to be here, too. The two of them, who I hadn't seen in 10 years, looked different. My ex-husband appeared somewhat haggard, while Sally seemed to be trying to look young, but looked much older than her age.
I'm troubled by your sudden visit. Please leave.
I came to take my daughter. She's here, right?
Stop. I won't let you in.
Why? She's my daughter.
If you enter without permission, I'll call the police. It's trespassing.
What?
Irritated by my firm refusal, Sally raised her voice towards the house.
Hey, you're in there, right? Annie,
Stop it.
why are you getting in the way? Do you think you've become her real mom? Marie, you're just a fake after all. I'm the one who gave birth to her after carrying her in my womb. A real mom is obviously better.
How can she call herself a mom after abandoning her for 10 years? I wanted to say that, but hesitated, thinking my daughter might want to meet her biological mother. With this thought, I couldn't muster a reply. Seeing me falter, Sally laughed and, pushing past me, entered the house.
Annie?
Man?
Ah, you've grown up. I am your real mom.
My daughter, hearing the commotion, looked at Sally with a frightened face. Displeased by my daughter's reaction, Sally's face contorted.
Did this woman tell you bad things about me? That's all lies. She took you from me and pretended to be your mom. I'm your real mom.
Sally looked at me with contempt and then smiled at my daughter. She knew I couldn't say anything in front of my daughter.
Liar.
Yes, that woman, my sister, is a liar.
No. The liar is you.
What?
My daughter pointed straight at Sally. Both Sally and I were stunned by this unexpected turn.
Do you know how old I am?
16?
Almost 15. Mom has raised me all this time.
But,
Mom never told me, but I remember a little about you.
what?
Sally and I were speechless at this revelation. She had disappeared with my ex-husband 10 years ago when my daughter was 4. I had always thought my daughter had no memory of that time, as she never spoke of it.
I remember you yelling at me, not giving me food.
What? I never did that.
You are not my mom. I only have one mom. Not the one who gave birth to me, but the one who cared and loved me. This mom.
My daughter clutched my sleeve tightly. I was overwhelmed with emotion and tears threatened to spill.
What?
Frustrated, Sally bit her lip and raised her voice, her hand lifting as if to strike. I instinctively shielded my daughter, but Sally's movement abruptly stopped.
Dad?
You?
I didn't know when he had returned, but my husband was there twisting Sally's arm. Having been informed of the situation, he understood that Sally was the one trying to harm us, and the confused man was my ex-husband. He watched them both with a sharp gaze.
Are you okay?
Yes.
Seeing my husband's calm eyes, my daughter and I felt relieved.
You got married again?
My ex-husband, who hadn't even tried to stop Sally's violence, was shocked.
That's none of your business.
How could you just remarry on your own?
Remarry? You left the divorce papers and disappeared, remember?
T?
My ex-husband, glared at by me and my husband, was at a loss for words.
What? Marie got married? Living in such a big house with a husband? This is ridiculous. I took everything from her. Why does Marie look happy?
Sally screamed, her hair disheveled.
Dad, these people have been terrible to Mom. My mom is only my mom.
My usually quiet daughter passionately defended me.
It's okay. You stay in the room with Mom.
You?
Your parents are here too. We will settle this.
Unknowingly, I was trembling. I realized this only when my daughter and husband held my hand. My husband then led Sally and my ex-husband outside, who were shouting nonsensically.
Mom, are you okay?
I'm sorry. I should have talked to you.
No, it's okay. I never told you either.
I remembered my biological parents and thought you might be disappointed.
If only I had done the right thing, I wouldn't have made you feel so insecure.
I know you kept silent thinking of me.
Before we knew it, we were hugging and crying together. Sally and my ex-husband were sternly reprimanded by my husband and my parents for their unreasonable behavior. They persisted in trying to take my daughter back, but their reasons were typical of them. My daughter's biological father, Sally's ex-husband, was the only son of a wealthy family. After divorcing Sally, he fell ill and recently passed away. Annie, being his legitimate daughter, had a right to the inheritance. Sally and my ex-husband were trying to take back my daughter for that inheritance. Sally and my ex-husband, who had disappeared, had been living a financially strained life and were desperate for the inheritance. In the end, my daughter, who had never met her biological father, chose to renounce her right to the inheritance. When we told them this, both Sally and my ex-husband collapsed in despair. Sally, in need of money, went crying to her parents' home but was turned away and told never to show her face again. Although my daughter found out the truth in an unfortunate way, she is bravely accepting it and moving forward. My loving daughter and the husband who strives alongside me. If you speak of blood relations, we are all different. But I am confident that we are bound by a deeper bond than any other family. My daughter's smile and my husband's kindness are the greatest proofs of this. I cherish my precious family and am committed to living life to the fullest. On a Sunday morning, as I prepared breakfast with my daughter, I once again deeply felt our happiness.